Hi there. In the chapter The Period Under Charles Taze Russell in Apostles of Denial by Edmond Gruss, the last segment of the chapter is entitled Reasons for Success, summarizing why Russell did so well. That being said, we have to put it in a numerical context. There were still only a few thousand regular followers of Russell back in the World War I period. But here's the reasons for success according to Gruss. How can the success of this man be explained? He lacked education. He was no theologian, although he developed his own theology. He was not a scholar. He was plainly a man that at times could not be trusted. He was clearly a perjurer before the courts. He was left by his wife because of his conduct. His teachings denied almost every cardinal doctrine of the Bible. From his claims and those of his followers, he certainly was the greatest egotist of his age. The unsound foundation of Russell has formed the cornerstone for the Jehovah's Witness movement and the numerous Russellite sects which are orbiting around the Watchtower Society. Although Russell is dead, the revolt that he founded is still very much alive. Again, the question, why was Russell so successful? The following reasons are suggested. First, Russell knew human nature and how to control it. His famous free no collection attracted many persons. 2, there is no doubt that Russell had a personal magnetism. Some have recounted that with a Bible in his hand, he could hold a large audience at attention for several hours. Third, his theology, although not scriptural, was rational. The rational approach drew many. With such a doctrinal basis, even the non-Christian found a ground for agreement. Fourth, Russell's appeal to Scripture drew many who did not see the wrong usage of the Bible. Davies comments, it has been established that there are over 5,000 different scriptural citations in the books of Russell. That's from Horton Davies' little book, The Challenge of the Sects, published in 1961. Fifth, Russell's key propaganda subject was hell. This subject packed the meetings in many places and drew many who wished to get rid of eternal punishment. 6, his teachings were spread far and wide through the printed page, through newspaper advertisements and the colportage work, by the speaking engagements of Russell and other Watchtower representatives, through the popular photodrama, and through both local and national conventions. 7, the mastery of making economical books must also be recognized as a reason for growth, and of course that would be more emphatically the case during the Rutherford era and then the Franz Knorr era. 8, the teachings of Russell offered the downtrodden and the afflicted a time of triumph in the end. He offered a spiritual means to a material end. Yeah, that's a great point that Ray Franz makes too, isn't it, in Search of Christian Freedom. The Watchtower's gospel from the beginning has been a version of the prosperity gospel. It's about material advantage in the very near future, a deliverance from the stuff that plagues most of mankind and has always plagued most of mankind, a near deliverance. And number 9, as it has been brought out before, evolution and higher criticism have been accepted by many ministers, which caused many church members to search for something which opposed such a trend. And finally, 10, Russell was convinced of both his claims and his message, and the repetition of his doctrines and claims brought results. Russell's death left a large void in the Watchtower organization. Russell had been the society, and his successor had to be a man of unusual abilities and ideas to salvage a one-man organization which had made all prophecy apply to events in his lifetime. The man to whom the mantle of this self-styled Elijah fell was Joseph Franklin Rutherford, affectionately known as Judge. In a footnote to this page, Gruss prints this. In a reprint edition of Millerite George Storrs' 6 sermons and 2 other articles, Roy Goodrich concludes that all the major points of present Reformation truth proclaimed by Pastor Russell were first published by George Storrs in his 6 sermons and in the Bible Examiner. And of course, we've done a whole playlist on the influence of Nelson Barber in Three Worlds, which was at least published, if not partly written, by Russell before he founded the Watchtower. But I'll put in a link to another playlist, which is entitled Who Really is the Faithful and Discreet Slave? In that we list some Christian teachers who've greatly blessed us and greatly blessed millions, and of course none of them are from the Watchtower world. Among those, though, is David Berceau, who edited this book, and you can find his testimony on YouTube. He edited this book, a collection of quotes from the early church fathers, a dictionary of early Christian beliefs. He collected this information in the years, a decade or so after he left the Watchtower in 1975, where he was an elder until I think that year. But he's done a yeoman service to all of us in collecting the thoughts of the earliest church fathers, because after all, the Watchtower's claims cannot be verified from the early church fathers. They don't even attempt to do that, but they can be, they think, demonstrated by the early church fathers, and Berceau shows that they just don't know what they're talking about. It's not that they're necessarily being deliberately misleading, they're just cherry-picking the church fathers as they do all else. Church history, and of course the scriptures themselves. So I'll put in Who Really is the FDS, that's the playlist, and David Berceau, ex-JW elder, editor of A Dictionary of Early Christian Beliefs. See you next time.